And it really goes to prove that if you don't measure something, nothing will be done about it.
And we have to make New Jersey's business climate more attractive for entrepreneurs.
We are Wonder Women. Like, look at all these women and what they've done and what they've tried. And even if they didn't succeed, they gave it a shot.
I don't think it's fair to put a $4 or $5 billion price tag on middle-class New Jerseyans.
We've got a great lifestyle here, and I don't want to see it ruined because politicians can't manage our finances properly.
Let me introduce you to my first guest, Jude Avelino. Jude is a managing partner of Avelino and Hartlub LLP and the leader of its estate planning and corporate departments. His skill and expertise are in navigating complex wealth retention issues ranging from estate planning to corporate and tax matters. Hometown TV is also excited to announce that Jude will soon be starting his own show right here in our studio titled, Are You Ready for Life? It's tailored towards helping our viewers expand their knowledge and properly prepare for most of life's events, whether they're expected or not expected. Discussion topics include guidance in creating wills, trusts and estates, navigating elder law, and so much more. Jude and his family have lived in Summit for 15 years, which allows him to have a unique insight into the nuances of our community. He's also been instrumental in fundraising for the Summit Community Center, is a trustee of the Overlook Foundation, and supports various arts and sports programs throughout Summit schools. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Jude Avelino. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on your show.
Yes, thanks for coming.
Of course.
So we're excited that you're going to be starting here in September, October,
Yeah.
right? So I know you, we're friends, you're in our neighborhood, but for the viewers, can you just tell a little bit about yourself and your background and
Sure.
being in Summit?
Sure. So as he said, I've lived in Summit for 15 years, and I am a trust and estates attorney. I have an LLM, which is a master's in law in taxation from Georgetown. And last November, I merged with an attorney, Jeff Hartlub, in town.
Yep.
In my opinion, Jeff is a preeminent real estate attorney in the state of New Jersey. Between the two of us, we have close to 70 years of experience practicing law. And so now our law firm is a 9-attorney law firm located in Summit. And we service our clients in the areas of real estate, estate planning, land use, which is variances, corporate work, and litigation.
Wow, it's well-rounded.
Yeah.
That's excellent. So let me ask you this, Jude, because in this day and age, you can go online and you can pretty much get anything you want from the internet, the internet of everything, right? You have different websites like LegalZoom that you can go on, fill out a template, have a will done for very inexpensively. Why would I choose someone like your firm versus LegalZoom?
Right. So it's a great question. I think there's certainly a place for LegalZoom. My mother was a single mom, from Queens. So LegalZoom, if there was the internet back then, would have been perfect for her.
Right.
But if you have a family, children, own a home, have some assets, to me you want more for them than going to the computer.
Right.
Some client said to me one time, well, you have software for this, you're just pushing buttons. And I said, well, I know the buttons to push.
Right.
All right. So you think about what happens when something happens. There's only two things we're certain of, right? They are?
Death and taxes?
Death and taxes. Okay, good answer.
I didn't know you were going to quiz me on my own
there's
show.
A quiz. There's quizzing involved.
Right.
Death and taxes. So we know it's going to happen. Let's prepare.
Right.
Let's put our family in the best position possible. And when something happens, are you going to run to the computer, or would you rather go to a real life person who's going to help guide you through what usually is a very stressful time?
Right. Can you give me some real life examples where, you know, for me, for example, right? I'm married, I have 2 kids, but who else would come to you?
Yeah, I mean, again, since we're all going to go one day, really everyone needs to come in. But there are core documents that we all need. A will.
Right.
So a will will name a personal representative of your estate. Once you pass away, you no longer exist in the eyes of the law. And someone needs to come and act on behalf of your assets. The will names that. Most importantly, if you have young children, the will is going to name a guardian for those children. If you don't name a guardian properly, families could end up fighting over who's going to raise the children.
Right.
children cannot inherit anything under a will. So there needs to be a trust set up under the will. If there is no trust set up under the will because you pushed the wrong button on the computer screen, the court will have to take the money and appoint a stranger, a guardian ad litem, to be in charge of that money. And now your brother or sister, whoever took guardianship over the children, has to go to that guardian, to the court, to ask for money.
Right.
Nobody wants that scenario.
Right.
So that's the will. A power of attorney enables someone of your choosing to act on your behalf if you cannot act for legal and financial matters. So real life example, we once had a client who was a doctor who got pneumonia and fell into a coma. And he had a medical practice, and he had bills to pay. And he had the money to pay all those things, but no one could act on his behalf. So his family had to take out loans to help pay his staff and pay his bills. We don't want that. You're sending a child off to college. They're an adult. You need to have a power of attorney over them. So in the event something happens, you can access their legal and financial paperwork, their medical records. Okay? So power of attorney is the second of the core documents. A living will. We all remember Terry Schiavo down in Florida, who sat in a vegetative state for 17 years. Her parents were ultra-religious, didn't want to let her go, and the husband said he and his wife discussed it, and she did not want to be kept alive, but there was no living will. So they fought in the court system for 17 years until it was finally resolved. It could have been easily resolved with a living will. If you have life insurance of over $1 million or more, you should have a life insurance trust. Although life insurance proceeds are income tax-free, they're not estate tax-free. So the life insurance proceeds on the death of the surviving spouse, whatever's left, gets added on to your estate and then taxed. Furthermore, you want to make sure that life insurance, which is for many people their biggest asset, it just doesn't exist yet, goes to who it's supposed to go to, which is the surviving spouse and then the children, not the surviving spouse and then the new partner they may marry later on. We want it to go to the children. And lastly, if you have young children, I'm not a financial advisor, but I tell my clients, talk to your financial advisor about setting up a 529 plan to save for college.
Interesting.
Okay? To me, those are the core documents. There's other situations that come into play. If you have a child with special needs, you need a special needs trust. If you have property in multiple states, you may need a revocable trust. But the will, power of attorney, living will, and life insurance trust are the core documents that I think everybody needs.
Right. You had talked about estate planning, and that is close to my heart. I've done a lot of interviews on it. And it's phasing out, but there's talk that it might come back in. So, and New Jersey is very complicated with taxes. If I came to you and I set up all my will and my estate planning, the estate tax is what it is today, but it changed a year from now. Do I go back to you? How does that work? How do you work with your clients to make sure that they're adequately, changing and evolving as the law changes and evolves?
Yeah, so let's discuss the estate tax very quickly.
Yeah.
The exemption last year was $675,000, which means the first $675,000 is free of New Jersey taxes. Governor Christie put it into the gas tax, put a repeal of the estate tax into the gas tax bill. So it's being phased out, as he said. The exemption this year for 2017 is $2 million. And there's supposed to be no New Jersey estate tax next year. However, we have a gubernatorial race coming up in November. You had the leading candidate on as a guest on your show, Phil Murphy, who has said he wants to bring the estate tax back.
Right.
Okay. So you need to have documents that are flexible enough so that every time there's a change in the tax law, you don't have to change your documents. And again, will you know that by going to the computer? If you have a real life person as your attorney, hopefully they will guide you. I guide my clients. If there's changes in tax laws, I let them know. If there's changes in their lives, they let me know. I think it's about a 3 to 5 year cycle. You don't want to think of this as a transaction.
Right.
Again, not to pick on the online sites, but that's a transaction. You do the will, you mentally check it off on your mind that you did the will, and you throw it in your drawer and you never think about it again. Meanwhile, your life is changing and laws are changing. If you have a relationship with your attorney, you're going to review this every 3 to 5 years. And just a quick comment on pricing, you brought that up a little while ago. Yes, real live attorneys are more expensive than computer attorneys, but there's a reason for that. It's the guidance, right? When someone is sick and in the hospital, the attorney is going to come and help. I've been to Overlook Hospital more times than I can think of with clients who are going to have brain surgery, heart surgery, just had a stroke. You want a relationship with an attorney that you know, rather than at that time, because you use an online site, finding a stranger to come.
Right.
Okay, so it's going to be more expensive. Price shop for appliances.
Right.
Don't price shop for this.
Right. You know, you brought up a really good point about being in the hospital. What about parents? So we have aging parents. Even having this conversation, I'm like, are we covered? You know, are we situated? What should the average person think about when they have aging parents?
Yeah, well, that's a big question. There's a lot to think about.
I know.
And we're the sandwich generation.
Yeah.
I'm going to put myself in your age bracket, okay? We're the sandwich generation. We're raising our children, and we're helping our parents age. So we're taking care of 2 generations. And the same documents apply to mom and dad. We want to make sure that their wills are in order. We can't just assume they had it done because they have a friend who's an attorney that you saw at a barbecue one time. We want to make sure that you have power of attorney over mom and dad and the living will. If there are other things to do, then it's time to have a discussion with mom and dad to find out what those other things may be. But again, they need the core documents just like you or I need the core documents.
Right. You've given us a lot to think about, and you know what? We are so excited to have you on in September because I feel like this is deep. There's so many vast pieces to this between parents, children, the estate, the ever-changing taxes. What can we expect from your show?
Well, I hope a lot of information. So as you said earlier, the name of the show is Are You Ready for Life? And the idea came from watching these shows where people are talking about the stock market and trying to predict if the market's going up or down. And I don't think you can really predict that with any level of accuracy. But again, there are the 2 things that we can all predict that are going to happen. And so my job on the show is to give everyone information to be ready. It's a beautiful thing about life. We know that it's going to end one day, yet we still live fulfilled lives. And I don't want this subject to be something that people carry around with them every day, but I want them to be prepared. Be prepared for when things happen. Be prepared for when laws change. Take away the unintended consequences. I see that over the last 20 some odd years. I've seen a lot of unintended consequences where mom or dad didn't plan correctly and not the right people ended up with the assets, right? Or there's no planning and now there's fighting and chaos. With a proper plan, you can avoid all of that.
Right.
You know, when I joke that when you're having your first child, you read the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting.
Right. And none of it happens that way.
No.
So.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
But the last chapter should be, congratulations, you just had your first child. Now get your will done.
Right.
People don't know what they don't know. And I hope my show gives people things to think about. And we'll have guests in the areas of law, finance, tax, and local politicians to give everyone information that they need to be ready for life.
Excellent. We're excited.
Great.
All right. Thanks so much for coming on
Thank
today,
you.
Jude. We look forward
Thank
to
you.
having you soon.
Thank you very much.
All right.